Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Two Old Guys Reselling Podcast, your home for something, wrestling, reselling, real good times, something
Real
like
good
that.
times. That's
All
it.
kinds of good times, and just hanging out, having a good time. That's what we do here.
We're not even
And
sure what we're about, honestly.
we're just here for your viewing pleasure, and
Yeah.
sure ain't much to look at, but listen and enjoy.
Or misery, depending on how you view it.
That's probably, yeah. You like something to critique and make fun of, hang out with us for an
That's
hour
it.
every week.
That's it.
Oh my goodness! So
Oh, man.
how's it going? Good to
Man,
see
going
you,
great.
Josh.
Going great,
Oh,
buddy.
that's a good way to start a show.
Hey,
Oh,
if I mentioned this last week, I'll throw this in there real quick but well, no, I'm going to wait. I'm going to hold on to it.
you're gonna-
Sorry, I'm going to hold on. I'm going to hold on to this. I think it's good to hold on to, but I do have something, a little bit of an update on a situation that I want to share later.
boy.
But
Well, while Josh
I didn't
is
even.
building, while you're building the anticipation, we're going to shout out some sponsors.
Let's go for it.
The 2024 Highway 127 Pickin the Plateau comes to you hosted by the Two Old Guys and co-hosted by the Reseller Locker Room. Our sponsors are My Reseller Genie, Grams and Pops Vintage, and Lucky 7 Auction.
I think they could have got a better narrator for that thing.
I don't know. You did pretty good. I like it.
Like it. All right. Well,
I like it.
If you didn't notice from the sponsor package, the meetup is getting closer and closer and closer. It's about it's like 5 weeks out. So
Yep.
that is crazy. Time to get on the ball. What have you been doing for the last couple of months? Like, I'm not ready. I'm not ready.
Man.
Oh, I mean, I'm ready, but I have been so overwhelmed. I'm not ready. Like, I need to get on the ball now.
Oh, look, here I am. I'm thinking about, all the things that we have to do that week. And I would like to also be able to source. There you go. That's a good one to throw in there. Yep. I'd also like to be able to source a little bit, just to kind of make up some of the costs for going. But, then talking with my wife this weekend, she's like, I've been looking at things for us to do early in the week. They got some horseback riding and all this like, oh boy, but it is our anniversary week. So, I can't say too much. I got to be careful. She agreed to let this go down the week of our anniversary. And, truth be told, if this goes well and we continue in the future, this sale happens the same time every year. So we're going to be the 127 anniversary celebration every year.
So we have to treat Casey good. We have to treat her really good this week.
She's a good sport though. She really is. She's awesome.
Well, she has to be pretty good. She married you. I say the same thing about Tanya. Like Tanya is a good woman. She puts up with me every single day. So, and if she's watching, she's probably going to write in the comments that you dang right. Just put up with you every day. Oh goodness. So needless to say, we hope you guys show up and have a good time with us at the Pickin the Plateau.
Yeah, that's a pretty big reach though for a spouse to actually watch your content, right? I mean,
yeah, yeah, I'll just leave it at that. Yeah.
Yeah, mine watches when I say, hey, will you check this out and tell me what you think? That's about it.
Oh man, I remember the first few videos, Tanya was like, this is good that, she's my perfect critic. Like, this is really good. You could work on this. She does it great. Like she's a good critic. She tells you, she gives you good constructive criticism. Now she's like, I don't even watch it. Just whatever. Just go out there and do whatever. And I'm like, yeah, but she does tell me, she say people look to you for encouragement. And I'm like, well, I'm not trying to be a motivational speaker. And she said, well, you not necessarily, but people get encouragement. So you need to build on that. And I'm like, okay, I'll try my best. But yeah, man, how we got off on the spouse talk. If they are listening, we love you girls. Yeah, we love you girls.
That's right. That's how it happened. I mean, I'm sitting here trying to figure out how I'm going to make anniversary and meetup and 127 all happen in the same week.
Speaking of anniversary, but okay, we're recording on Monday, but this drops on Thursday. So if you are watching this, it is mine and Tanya's anniversary.
Awesome.
As you're watching this. Thank you. And 20 years.
Wow.
Can you believe she's made 20 trips around the sun with me? That is, it is around the earth goes around the sun. I don't know. Something like
I'm pretty sure that's how it happens.
Yeah, something like that. Anyway, 20 times now. Pretty wild.
Yeah, they've been knowing about that, I think, since about the 1400s. So
have they? Well, I'm not no science major. I know nothing really. But if you could have told me, oh no, we rotate around Venus, I'd have been like, oh, that's the one. So yeah, I'd have probably believed you. It don't. I knew we rotated around something.
Right. Well, orbit rotates more like on the axis, but
yeah. Well, we spin, and then we spin again, right? Spinning twice.
We move in orbit. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That makes
they're not here for a science lesson. We're gonna lose 3 subscribers just from bringing that up.
That's okay. We probably will anyway. So it's all right. Oh gosh.
So I noticed before we got on, I was just kind of skimming through some of my subscriptions and checking out a few items here and there because I don't get a lot of time to watch, seeing what was going on in the YouTube reselling community. And I noticed that you were on the Full-Time Flippers podcast.
I was a horrible guest for those guys. My quality was horrible, and but I had a good time. I mean, it was fun hanging out. You're not familiar with those guys. He's talking about Chad, the quirky picker, and Dennis, the free king flipper. They have a podcast called the Full-Time Flippers Podcast. Good guys.
Absolutely.
And they had me on for their Bolo or Nolo segment. I was on there about 30 minutes with them, I think, and had a good time with them. Good guys. So go check them out and help those guys out. Subscribe to them if you ain't already.
That's right. And if you don't get enough of Caleb on Thursdays, just check them out. You get 30 extra minutes.
The only complaint or questionable thing I would say about them now is their choice of guests might be a little poor. That's the only thing.
Oh man, come on now. Come on.
But anyway, no, I love supporting, I mean, when you say it like this, the smaller YouTube channels, because you can't really say we love supporting all you smaller. I mean, we're right there with you. We're not a big YouTube channel by no means whatsoever. We're small. We're very insignificant in the reselling world.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, even if you take, but even if you take, the bigger ones, the ones that are trashy, those kinds.
Yeah.
They're still not they have 10,000. In the YouTube world, that is also insignificant. And that's not speaking of the trash pandas. Is that
what you said? The trash pandas?
The trashy ones is what I said. No, but yeah, I mean, anybody that wants to think that there's something, I guess is what I'm trying to say is don't forget to be humble because just because you hit 1K, I mean, it's a great accomplishment. We've hit it a couple of times. So there you go. We're going to hit it many, many, many times over and over.
We like it so much. We just keep doing it over and over.
We're just up and down, oh man, we got down to 992 the other day, back up to 995. And then we lost another one. So it's all right.
No.
I ain't worried about it, but it's just like the YouTube algorithm and all that stuff is so odd.
Oh man.
If you're looking to get rich, just keep reselling on eBay. Okay. Don't come over to YouTube thinking you're about to get rich because it ain't going to happen.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, it happens for some people. I don't know about rich, but income wise, I mean, there are a few exceptions. We all know that, but income wise for some very few, I don't know that'd be an interesting study to know what percentage of people that start out on YouTube, say within 5 years, make a livable, let's say a livable wage that's above the poverty line, whatever the government establishes poverty line. I mean, I bet it's a very small percent. I know it's not big, but I wonder if it's even over 1%. Because there are millions and millions of channels.
You take somebody like Corey and Teresa, Grams and Pops Vintage. Okay, they are very smart.
Mm-hmm.
Corey and Teresa have ran multiple businesses and succeeded at a lot of stuff. And Corey came into it. He'll tell you, he said, our plan was to make a certain percentage YouTube money and a certain percentage eBay money. And he said, figured it out real quick that the YouTube money is not realistic. Like you're not going to come into it in a year or 2 years and be making full-time money. Even bigger channels, are not making enough money that they can just do nothing but put out content, especially if you build your channel off of, let me show you what I'm reselling. And then you're making money off YouTube and you say, well, I just do YouTube. Guess what? People are there for the reselling content. So It's kind of you're kind of stuck. You can vary a little bit, but I've heard of channels going full bore in the other direction, like changing their reselling content into like vlogging or whatever, and they lost like half their audience because obviously that we come for what we're looking for, not for what we are not looking for. So anyway.
But you also, I do get those that have made that decision. I think at some point, if you're not getting the traction you're looking for, there can be a such thing as addition by subtraction. And, if an audience, we mentioned this, I think before the show, if an audience is your primary goal, then you've got to look at what creates the audience, not what you like doing. But if you just like doing the content and you do it because it's fun to you, then you have to focus on what makes it fun for you. If it's just trying to make the content that gets the viewers and gets the, potential income, then that's another animal altogether.
Absolutely. So I don't know where I was going next.
We got plenty of directions to go.
Yeah, plenty of directions. So okay, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, how about that glamping? Have we took the glamping trip yet?
No, it didn't work out.
Oh man,
it's going to work out. We've got it planned now. Some of the friends that was going to go with us, they had forgot they had a prior obligation the next day in like a 3-hour drive, and they just could, you just can't make that work.
Right. And
so they still came over that night, but they had to leave, get prepared to go on their trip. But yeah, I bought $300 worth of stuff for this glamping trip. Me and now it looks like it's going to be all 4 kids, my friend, his son-in-law, myself. We've been back in the woods back here cleaning out a spot, and my nephew has a fire pit already built, and they've got like a half a rick of wood back here. They carried this wood on 4-wheelers back there, and it looks like a big old wood pile back there, and I'm like, good grief, boys. They took it serious. Like, they was ready.
Man.
And but I think we're going to probably stay overnight, like 4th of July or the day after, because everybody will be off the day after here. So we may stay one of those days also. But yeah, I went crazy. I'm telling you, I went to Walmart and I'm like, I'm going to buy some stuff, and I'm usually fairly frugal and pretty good with money. And I say that, I don't know how good I am with it, but anyway, I bought the big thing I bought was a Blackstone camping grill. And I'm a big fan of Blackstone anyway. I've got their flat top griddle. I love it.
I've got one too.
I love it. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to bite the bullet. I'm going to buy this thing. And it's really cool. It's like the cooking section is, I don't know, it's about as big as it's about as big as the cookie sheet.
Right.
So I'm on.
I think I lost you, brother. Hello.
Hey, we're back.
I don't know if it was me or if it was you.
Mine died, yours died, everybody's died. So I guess it was me this time.
We may have
if you guys don't know, I'm at the new house. this week. We'll go right into talking about this, but I'm at the new house for a reason, and I meant to buy I have one, a LAN cable and connect straight to the router because the internet here is nowhere near as good as the internet at my other place. I'm talking like David and Goliath difference. It's like huge. So yeah, we today I didn't film, so I'm going to be either 2 weeks without a video or a week behind on my videos. I'm not sure. But we actually started moving some of the racks, and I moved my packing table, and I moved my listing computer is right here in front of me at my new house, and I don't have my eBay space ready. Like, it's not even been started. So I didn't tell you this part, but on my racks, they're the Sam's Club racks. They're the tubular steel racks. Yeah. I love them. I never put the wheels on them. I just never thought I'd need them. I'm like, I'll just use these levelizers, and do that. I was like, I don't need the wheels. So now I'm thinking when I bring them in, I'm going to put the wheels on them. That way, when I get ready to start insulating on this wall, I can just roll them out of the way. And when I get that done, I can roll them back in. And I think I can actually set it up with like 6 racks out there and leave my listing computer in here for now and pack in the house. And I can actually use that as just like a little warehouse.
Yeah.
For a month or 2, maybe 3 months while I'm working on it. I think I can do the insulation, the wiring, get the sheetrock done with all that stuff in there. Just throw a tarp over it when they're finishing. Mm-hmm. And I think I can make it work. So, yeah, we started, and my plan is move in like I've got 4 racks right now. So move those 4 racks in. That'll be rack 1 through 4. And I'm going to just totally move everything from rack 1, 2, and 3 in. That way I don't have to inventory change anything.
Right.
That was rack 1. This is going to be rack 1. Just do a swap, And then I'll have those 3 racks empty. So then I'll take those racks and put them in and put some totes or something on them. So I'm going to have, like at least 6 racks. I think I can get everything I got right now on 6 and still be able to get around and work in there too. So that's the plan. It's going to be for some interesting videos in the next couple of weeks when I can get rolling again, because the shed, I took all the carpets up, the rugs I had in there. Those 4 racks are gone. That one table's gone. It looks way different in there right now. Yeah, way different. So it'll be some interesting stuff in the next couple of weeks for sure.
Absolutely. And honestly, I know you'd mentioned like the cost before when we had talked on the podcast of trying to get the new place finished, and doing it the way that you're looking at doing it now, it may be a little cumbersome, but the amount that you'll save by kind of doing what work you can do yourself and then contracting out yourself instead of hiring a contractor that's going to have to call people in. I mean, you'll save a tremendous amount. And I think in the end, based on prices right now, I just think I know if it were me, that's the way I would approach it, because if you can save half the cost on a big expense like that, it's hard not to see doing it that way. It's just hard.
I know. And it's not even like a time issue, because the time was still going to be like a 2-month project completion.
Right.
You give me 2 months of working on it when I can. I'm pretty sure I can have it insulated, wired, have a heat and air unit in it, and probably have it sheetrocked, have the sheetrockers done in 2 months, maybe painted. I mean, I might be looking at like flooring it, trimming it, that type of stuff.
Right.
In 2 months, So I think it's possible. I just have to get it's all mental. It's all right here.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't work as fast as I used to. I just have to get it in my brain. As I walked in earlier and I'm like, dang, what's wrong with me? Like, all it's going to be is right now, it's literally go get insulation and put it in. Like, it's not a huge, the biggest part is 17-foot ceilings. So what do you got to do for that? You got to either get scaffold in or a real big ladder, right? I mean, one or the other. So the walls are nothing. The walls are fine, easy, done. but that 17-foot section, I may call in the my son and my nephew for some backup.
Yeah,
that's going to be, 17
but I
foot's
mean,
up there, man.
it is. But I mean, you're a tall guy, so I mean, an 8-foot step ladder, you probably are well within reach. I'm not talking about getting on the top of it either. I mean, because you add your arm extension to that. I mean, you got another 1.5 or 2 foot. So
Yeah.
you're looking at, I mean, it's, it's probably just off of an 8-foot step ladder, you could probably make it work.
Yeah, I think you could. It just, maybe that very top part might be a little stretch.
Yeah.
But I think you can make it happen.
Yeah.
And
You
it's
just
not
got to
like
be,
it's not like it's, 30 feet. I mean,
right.
If it's 30 feet, I'd be renting a lift or something, not messing around with a ladder. But
well, that mental part though, just in general, I don't know about other people, but I'm telling you, we've talked about this, man. I've struggled a lot with motivation here lately, and I know it's the mental stuff. It's when you have so much going on, and some people look at it and say, "Oh, everybody's got stuff go." Well, yeah, they do, and everybody handles things differently. But I'm not saying mine's more than someone else's either. But I know that what's going on right now altogether for me and what I'm trying to do, what I need to be doing, and maybe I'm not doing, and then just life in general, I've never been in a place in my life at any other point in my 40 plus years where I was this stretched thin, trying to do things.
mm-hmm.
And the mental strain of that, I mean, more often than not, rather than really getting motivated, I end up shutting down. And I mean, I feel ashamed to even say that, but I mean, it's just the truth. I mean, like, I've had days where, I just can't get myself. I mean, there's so many things I don't know where to start. And I end up, the amount that I get accomplished is so small compared to what it should have been. And then you look back and you kick yourself because, like you said, it's right there. You see what you need to be doing. But sometimes it can be overwhelming, man. It's a lot more than, and I'm not one of those that tries to, throw a pity party, or you know what I mean? And come up with a reason. I'm not looking for anybody to feel sorry for me at all. I'm just saying the reality of life sometimes it can become overwhelming, and it is what it is. I picked up, you mentioned installation. I didn't tell you this, but I picked up the installation for the little house that I'm doing for Mom. And I know probably a lot of people out there like, well, have you not got any further than that yet? But we did get the heat pump installed this last week. So it's up. And the only thing hindering us now from putting up the sheetrock and doing flooring is getting the insulation in the wall. So I picked that up this weekend. And that's my project for this week, is to try to get the insulation in the walls and get the sheetrock guy called and get an estimate. I usually hang it myself, and I have finished it, but I don't know, it's not a fun time of year when it's 100 degrees outside and humid and you start sanding sheetrock. I mean, I did that when I built my house, and about every hour and a half, you got to go out the water hose and spray the ½ inch of caked up sheetrock dust off your arms. You will literally, you talk about overheating. Once your face and your arms, everything, your shirt's covered, you can't get any air. I mean, you get so locked up. But so I'm gonna contact a sheetrocker that I know and just see what it would cost and see if it's worth it to me or not. It probably won't be. I'll probably end up doing a lot of it myself because it's hard for me to pay a lot of money to have something done that I know I can do myself if it's just a matter of putting in the time. So we'll see how it goes. But we're getting closer too. We're building that direction.
That's awesome. I told Tanya the same thing. I would totally probably sheetrock this myself. I said, but that 17-foot ceiling on sheetrock, that's a different animal. Like if it was a flat 8-foot ceiling, I wouldn't have any trouble because we have a lift. Yeah. 17 foot, I'm not even sure the lift will go that high. I know it'll go to 12, but I think 12 is about it on that lift.
I think that's right. I've got one too.
Yeah. And I mean, you could do, you could do the first run of the ceiling with the 12 foot, but then you're stuck doing 2 more runs probably on a ladder. And man, I can't do it anymore. But I mean, it's brutal. Sheetrock's bad enough anyway. I don't like it. I've hung some and I've finished very little. I'm not finishing sheetrock is an art form. I don't like it.
Oh, it is.
I don't like it at all. But I mean, we're going to get there. It's just going to take a little time, a little effort. And I'm hoping, like I said, I can just kind of warehouse that building for the time being. And listening here, and the only bad thing is I ain't going to have my dual monitors. I ain't going to have my setup the way that I've had it. So I'm going to have to learn to do it a little different, like click back and forth, and listening's going to be a little slower, but it gives me something to anticipate, something to build towards and look forward to. And I was hoping to be done with that building by the meetup, but now it's not looking like that's possible. I mean, I might have the insulation and the wiring and maybe some of that done. And I'm not real sure how the HVAC guy is going to want to install. Like, is he going to want to install prior to sheetrock or after sheetrock? You just don't know. That some of them, they're all different. Like, some would rather run the little box on the outside and drill a hole through the sheetrock. Some would rather run through the interior of the wall and cut a piece of sheetrock around it. I mean, it's just different, ways of doing it. I would rather it go through the wall, but I understand why they would rather go through a piece on the outside too, in case they ever have to do something.
Right.
So we'll see. We'll see how that all goes.
Yeah.
I
think it depends on the type of unit too. The mini splits where you hang the blower on the wall. I think, in most cases, those are easier to do in a finished product. To just go straight through. I think, like the one I had put in Mom's, it's a mini split, but they do, like Mitsubishi makes one now where it has an air handler and ductwork, but it's still a mini split. So the refrigerant lines, how they normally just go to the unit mounted on the wall, they go into this box and the condenser nozzle's in there, the blower, and it blows up through the ductwork just like a regular HVAC unit would. And it's more costly, but I say that the way that's laid out, because it's so divided into segments, I couldn't have just hung a single unit on the wall, even though it would have been big enough. I couldn't have distributed the air and kept the whole place sufficiently cool or warm, for that matter, especially. And so this was the best option. They also make units, when you have multiple spaces, where it goes in the ceiling anyway, and it has the blowers. You can have like 3 different rooms or so, sometimes more than that, each with their own unit, but they connect back to the same mini split outside.
Yeah, I've seen those.
There's options, and it all depends on the type. As far as what the best approach is. Having it done during the rough in process or having it done after the finish process is over.
And I may have to go with I don't think I'll have to go with the dual zone, because it's 400 square feet, but that high ceiling may affect it. So, but the dual zones are not that hard, especially when it's one big open room like that.
Right.
So like put the condenser on the back of the building and then put a air handler on like right above that, up about 12 feet, 13 feet, and then put one on the front of the building. That way you got both sides blowing in, like that.
Right.
That to me would probably be the way to do it, but I'll just have to get the HVAC guy out here and see, because I know it's a little bit like there's more cubic feet than there was with my shed. My shed was like 10 feet high, and this is 17 feet high, so it'll be
I think if you had a good ceiling fan, if you had space for it, because I know you got the loft, I don't know how that would work, but if you got enough room to hang a good ceiling fan on a down rod about a foot or two, and then coordinate that, in the winter time when all your heat's going to want to go up top, you'd want to turn it on high, blowing toward the ceiling, so you can circulate the heat back down around the walls. That would probably be cheaper and more efficient than even hanging 2 units, because you can blow a whole bunch of heat in, and as tall as yours is, it's still going to pool in the top. The cool air is going to pool in the bottom. So you got to have a good force of air pushing down to make it circulate, So, I mean, you'd have it blowing down during the summer, of course,
Oh, absolutely. We'll see. And, I've got a little bit of time to think about that. I don't want to take a ton of time. I'd like to kind of get it moving, but at the same time, we thought we had the house sold again, and it's kind of in limbo. So we're not sure.
Yeah.
It's just one of them kind of in limbo things, but we'll see what happens. And The good Lord knows what he's doing either way.
That's
But
it.
We'll get there at some point in time. But
absolutely.
So let's do this segment. Josh has made us these cool little banners. I like these things. So let's pop this up. It's keys to reselling success. And this week we're dealing with difficult returns. And if you're in reselling, you've had a difficult return.
Yeah.
It's just a part of life. It's the way it goes. So this week I get this email. A person I had 3 Pokemon tins, the metal card case tins, and they had some cards in them. It wasn't full like they come in the store.
Right.
I lay that out on the listing. I say, this is what's with it. I show everything. Like this has this one has that. It's all right there, black and white. Like, just look, And I didn't insinuate they were brand new. I didn't insinuate that they were full of cards. I just said, as shown, comes as shown, here's what you get. So I get a message. The buyer says, this didn't have all the cards in it. I'm like, I know. It had what was shown. And they're like, well, I wouldn't have paid. I think they paid like $23. They got like 5 or 6 packs of cards. They got 3 tins. I wouldn't have paid that if I'd have known that it didn't have all of it in there. And I'm like, well, yeah, because that'd have been like $50 worth of cards,
Yeah.
And they kept going back and forth. Well, I would really like the rest of the cards, or I'm going to need to return this. I'm like, I guess you're just going to have to return it because I don't have any other cards.
Right.
And finally, I told them, I said, our policy is outlined, and I know you can get away with this and you can't get away with this. It just depends on how you approach it. But I told them our policy, if you return it and it's no fault of our own, that we withhold return shipping, which I don't know that you're supposed to do that. It's kind of one of them gray areas with eBay. I don't usually do it anyway. It's kind of just something I put out there to let people know, hey, don't send it back just because. But again, at the same time, you can't really stop it. But he was like, yeah, I don't care. I want to send it back. I'm like, well, that's, $3 or $4. It ain't really going to sway you that much anyway. But it's kind of like, I don't know what to do for people that don't read the listing.
Yeah.
They look at it, they see it, and they're like, ooh, I want that. And I'm sure there are people out there that say, hey, I could probably get away with buying this and getting a partial discounted return, a partial refund. I know that happens too. But I just got tired of doing that. Like, you, in good faith, you try to give people the benefit of the doubt. And I've done that a lot. And then you turn around and something like that happens and you're like, I don't know. Do I give them $10 back and say, just keep the rest, or if you want to, or do you say, just go ahead and send it back and I'll donate it, or I'll resell it again, or I'll something. But here's the thing. He's opened them cards, guaranteed 100%. Guaranteed. So now I can't sell it as new.
Well, but here's the thing too. If it doesn't arrive back to you in the same condition as it was sent, you don't even have to give a full return on the product.
Right.
And I mean,
that's kind of how I've handled that in the past sometimes.
Yeah. It's we're within our rights, and there is no process by which they can put a negative review that can't be removed, according to my understanding, if that's the case.
That's what I've read too.
It may show up for a minute, but if you go through the channels to get it removed, it's not a case you can lose if you receive the product back different than Now look, and if they do try to do INAD on you, if you had it in your description that it was not every pack, they don't even have grounds for that. So it's as long as you're backed up by your description, your photographs, and then on top of that, if they're open, you don't even have to give a refund.
No,
if it comes back, like they send you something back that you didn't send them or whatever. Yeah. You've got a lot of leeway there, and sometimes eBay will still give that person their money back out of their own pocket if they're unhappy enough and it's a customer they're trying to satisfy. But I don't know. Ultimately, I think with returns, you need to expect them. Number one, I mean, we shouldn't be bent out of shape. I mean, if you're in the business of selling things, then you should expect sometimes there's going to be a return. That's just the way it goes. I know we can set our policy to no returns, but at the end of the day, eBay guarantees, returns. And so it's going to happen either way. I know that there's maybe more leeway in how you handle it when you put a no return policy in terms of, the shipping and stuff like that. But, for me, I think in dealing with those things, number one, you need to prep yourself kind of mentally that if you're going to get into reselling, there's going to be unhappy customers from time to time. You can do everything in your power to do things right, to list well, to describe well, to photograph well, to interact well, providing good customer service through messaging when they do have problems. And every now and then, every now and then, you're going to have a customer that's hard to satisfy. And you shouldn't take it personally, because that's just part of working in a market that involves sales. It's going to happen. And, we do our best to handle it professionally, I think, is the best advice we could probably give, just like you were doing. I mean, you're trying your best to answer the questions, provide the information necessary. And the best thing we can do is not internalize it, not make it a personal matter, and handle it like a business. Handle it like you're not the, you know what I'm saying? Like, think about it. If it's eBay responding, I mean, how would they would handle it in a certain way. And so I think if we do that, at the very least, in the eyes of eBay, we're doing a good job of customer service. And more often than not, we'll come out of it on the, taking the high road's the best road to take. Not being snooty about things, not getting an attitude, but just doing things right. Integrity is where it's at. Do things right because it's the right way to do things. And, let the chips fall where they may on the other side. That's all we can really do.
Absolutely. I had a lady message me a couple of weeks ago. She had bought a watch. It was just a cheap watch, like $10 or $11, just a cheap watch. And it didn't fit her arm the way she wanted it to. And she just asked if she might be able to return it. And I was like, this is one of those situations, like, if they return it, it's actually going to cost me money on the shipping. And I'm just going to refund it. That's the way I look at it. Like, I don't do that with everybody because, sometimes it is abuse, but this wasn't. I don't know how to tell you that I could just tell, but I could just tell this wasn't one of those situations. So I went ahead and just refunded it without answering her message at first. And then I messaged her back and let her know I refunded it, that she was welcome to donate it, give it away, throw it away, whatever she wanted to do with it. And the next message I get was like, oh my goodness, you are the best seller I've ever dealt with. This was the easiest, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, well, I'm, not trying to take advantage of anybody, but at the same time, this is better for all parties involved if you just go ahead and probably just dispose of it or whatever you want to do. And it made her really, really happy. And the feedback was excellent and everything. And now I know I made $0. I actually probably lost $4 on that with shipping. But sometimes you do that and you gain a customer. They're like, I'm going to go back to that store. I'm going to go back to that seller and just see what they have from time to time. I've actually had so many repeat customers over the years. At one time, there 1 month, I had like 15 or 20 returning customers in a month. And I'm like, that's pretty good considering I'm an everything seller. If I was a niche down seller and I sold, like crafting supplies, I could definitely see having return buyers like constantly, but I'm not. So it's pretty amazing that you have repeat buyers when it's a smorgasbord of items. I think that's just awesome, but I just don't know, like the returns is just one of them things that don't do it this way. I'm not saying do it this way, but sometimes I listen to my gut instinct, like, is this one legit? And I'll think about it and it just don't feel right. And that's probably not the way to handle returns. Yeah. Because you end up giving away stuff and giving away money. And then there's other times when somebody will send you a message like, you sold me something that's no good. I mean, they're just straight to full-blown anger mode. Like there is no workability with them. They're not willing to work. They just want to complain. They want to throw a fit. They want you to send them another one. They want you to send them one and give them their money back. I mean, like they go full tilt. And it's like, okay, I have a lot harder time helping somebody like that than I do somebody that comes and says, hey, I had an issue. Is there anything you can do to help? I mean, absolutely. I can help in that situation all the way up to just giving you a total refund. But man, if you come at me like that, it's like, it's the hairs on my neck stand up and it's like,
right.
Let's simmer down and talk about it. And then we'll see what can be done. But let's be mature. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. I'm rambling.
I think, and going back to something you had mentioned earlier and talked about again there, the return shipping part, I think there's definitely times when it warrants, return shipping. I mean, if I'm in the fault at all for why the item is not, pleasing, if it's on my end, I think it 100% deserves me to pay for the return shipping. But, especially for me, like I sell a lot of clothing. So if you're selling in a category where you're going to have a lot of buyer's remorse, where there's nothing wrong with the item, but I just decided I didn't like it. I don't like the way it looks on me. I don't like the way it fits. It's not the color exactly like I thought it was going to be. You got all these different reasons. If you're dealing with that, then I think it's worthwhile, and eBay supports you to do this, to put it in your policy that if the item is as described and there's no fault with the item, everything's, just like the buyer should have expected it to be, and it's just them deciding they don't want it. It's just buyer's remorse. Then I think it's okay to put it in your policy that, you don't pay for return shipping on buyer's remorse returns. And in many cases, I mean, if a person's spending $25, $30, $40 on the item, they're not really going to be that upset with paying the $6 or $7 to ship it back. They're going to get enough back anyway. They're not going to be upset about that. Now, if you're like me and you don't do free shipping, I mean, they're out having to pay shipping to have it brought to them and having to pay shipping to have it sent back. That's not my fault, if they make the decision. I mean, I look at it like this, and some people I know Amazon's a different beast, and it's 100% free about everything. But if I buy something in town, if me and my wife go to town and we go in the mall or something, and we go to like a department store to buy clothes like Belk or something like that, whatever y'all have in your area, if she buys an outfit and she tries it on and she likes it there, but she gets home, she tries it on again, it's like, I just don't think I want this. I don't like this about it, because that happens,
Mm-hmm.
Well, for us to return it, we've got to drive back to Belk. Well, I don't know about y'all, but gas is, $3.50 a gallon. So for us, we're going to be out, if I drive my truck, we're going to be out about 3 gallons of gas minimum to carry that back. So you're looking at over $10 to drive back to the store. That's more than shipping.
Oh, yeah, it is.
So, I mean, I think normal people that buy things in the market and sometimes return, whether it's shipped to them, unless it's Amazon, or whether it's buying from a store and having to go back and return it. And look, not everybody lives out like we do, but, for the most part, I mean, people probably are having to use a gallon to a gallon and a half of gas to go to a store and back to return something. It kind of comes out in the wash. It should be the expectation. For me, it is. It's kind of my expectation that I'm going to be out a few dollars if I decide to return something,
Absolutely. Yeah. I'll just leave it at that. I agree. Like, it's all just part of life, really. Like the other day, Tanya bought, I'll tell this, last night, she was so disappointed. Like and I don't know why, but she was like, this is horrible. It's horrible. She bought some roast meat at the store, and she's like, there was just so much fat in it, and it's no good. It tasted great, but it was $40 for 2 roasts. And she's like, what?
$40 for 2 roasts. I think we lost you again, brother.
But I mean, it's the world we live in. It's hard to, it ain't like back when we were young, deals were more fair and square and handshake deals and keep your word and all that stuff. Nowadays, it's like, more of a dog eat dog world, and we're in it to win it and make money, and I get it. But still, I miss those times where people cared enough to give you a quality experience. Like, that does still exist. I'm not saying it doesn't, but it is getting to be more of a rare thing. Like, in general, it's just,
well,
it's getting to be more of a rare thing.
That whole experience with returns. I mean, you got to look as a seller, you have to look at the bigger picture. I think, like I said, for one, it should be something we expect because of what we're doing for a living. But number two, the bigger picture, like you said, is we're building a reputation. Absolutely. Is it still possible someone can give a negative feedback? Well, sure it is. And you're not going to do this for a living and not get a negative feedback once in a while. I know there's people like, oh, I've been selling for 2 years and I've only had one negative feedback. Well, that's great. And maybe you sell a really high volume, but it's hard to imagine anyone being a high volume seller and not getting the random negative feedback from time to time, even if you can get it removed. But that being said, the overall feedback, right? I mean, by providing good customer service, by making sure that the products that we are selling are described well, pictured well, they are shipped well, and when they arrive, it's a product that for your, if I sell 100 items, the next 100 items I sell, I'm likely not to have a negative feedback. The next 200 items. Yeah. And out of those, I'm going to get a lot of positive feedback if I do my job well. And that's what I mean by the bigger picture. You got to focus on that. You're building a reputation. People are going to look at that. And like you said, the likelihood of creating a return buyer is going to be much higher if you present the product well, package it well, describe it well, if everything links up and you give them a good experience. I mean, that makes me want to go back. I don't want to overpay for anything, but there are times when I will go back and visit the same store if it's more of a local store and do business with them because I always get treated really well. And if there ever is a problem, it's never an issue for them to make it right. I can go to our local grocery store. If I was to bring home a gallon of milk, and it said it's good for, sell by date's 8 days away and in 5 days it's turned, I can carry that down there or just I don't even have to carry it with me. I could literally walk in and say, hey, that gallon of milk I bought, it's soured, 3 days before the sell by date. They say, just go grab one. Yeah. I mean, that's how they'd handle it. Just go grab one. Don't pay for it. Just grab one, take it with you. If you're getting stuff, just let them know at the register that's to replace one that went bad. Yep. And that's enough for me to prefer going there over Walmart most of the time.
Absolutely.
I mean, so.
Well, man, what's up with all this reselling talk? We're going to have to calm down here.
Yeah, I know. We need to move on, right?
Let's hit up a sell of the week right quick. Let's talk about that.
All right.
What did you have in the way of sell of the week this week?
I didn't have nothing, like nothing really big, I guess you'd say. My biggest dollar sale was only $50. I mean, it's not a bad one, but it was a Wrangler, vintage Wrangler brush popper, 20X shirt. And I say brush popper, if people aren't familiar with that, I think it's in the reselling community, probably pretty well known, but it's the older Wranglers. It's not any Wrangler, by the way. You can't describe any Wrangler as brush popper. You can put the key word in there, but again, if you're wanting to be accurate with what the buyer's getting, it can't be one of those little thin ones. Brush popper, it's tied to this idea of literally working out in the brush, and it's thicker and heavier, and it kind of protects you from briars and scrub and stuff like that. Okay. So if it's not the heavier fabric, it's technically not a brush popper. And if you want to argue with me on that in the comments, you can. But those older Wrangler shirts that were the heavier denim or canvasy like fabrics, even if they're multicolored, I mean, they can be really like Aztec prints, different things like that, and be a brush popper. But it's the fabric. It's how heavy they are. Anyway, I'll drop that. I sold one of those. It was actually the Wrangler 20X vintage, and it sold for $50. So,
wow. Did you say 20X? Is that like a model number?
It is. Yeah, 20X. 20X is like I think now they don't even put Wrangler on it. Maybe they still do 20X items, but it's made by Wrangler. But on this one, it just says 20X instead of Wrangler. Like on the pocket, it has 20X. But then on the tag in the back, it'll say Wrangler underneath it, especially on the vintage ones. It may still on the newer ones. I don't buy a lot of modern, items like that because they don't sell as good.
That's funny you brought that up. This ain't my sell of the week, but I'll hit it real quick. I sold this leather jacket this week, and it had the name and everything, and it was a 8XL. I was like, gosh, who's going to buy an 8X
8
leather jacket? So I'm like, I've got to try this thing on. It fit like a 4X because it fit me and was just a little bit long in the sleeve. I'm like, this fits more like a 4X because I wear a 3. And I was like, so I'm going to list this thing as 8X, but fits like more like a 4XL. And it took a few months, but it sold. And I'm like, man, I hope whoever gets that fits really well. I don't want it back.
I know we need to get to your sell of the week, but since you mentioned the jacket and the fit, I picked up a jacket last week at Goodwill. I didn't buy it. I picked it up looking at it because I liked it. I was thinking it might be nice for church. It's like a canvasy material, and it said extra large. And when I first put my first arm in and tried to get my second arm, it wouldn't quite go. You know how it is sometimes. I thought, but sometimes a coat that fits you well, you got to kind of start both arms and, do that thing. Yeah. Well, I got my 2 arms started and I said, well, this is an extra large that fits like a medium, And I was thinking to myself, I was by myself. I thought I may be trapped because sometimes when it finally slides over the shoulders, you're like, oh goodness, I'm stuck now.
What am I going to do now?
You go into the whatever you call it, the crab motions, trying to shake yourself loose from it. I thought I'm making a spectacle here in the store right now, but I got to get out of this thing.
Oh man, my nephew tried on some shoes today, and he tried on some 10.5s. He's like, "Oh, those are tight." I said, "Try the 11s," and he's like, puts them on. Those are tighter. I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" He went all the way up to 12, and he's like, "These are just as tight." I'm like, "Man, that's crazy." Yeah. But we work. We went to church. We go to church with a lady that used to work in a factory where they make clothing, and she said their quality standards was as long as it was within 2 sizes either way. Like if it was a 40, it could be a 38 or a 42 and pass. I'm like, that's crazy. Like if you're like me, I wear 40 pants, okay, or 42. So if I go buy a pair of 42s and they're 40, they ain't gonna fit.
Yeah,
like that. I could technically get them on, but it's like choking to death. Not gonna happen.
Be like a busted can of biscuits, right?
Yeah, yeah. That's, you can take that a couple of ways, but we'll leave that alone. Oh, Lord have mercy.
Why are you red, Caleb?
Yeah. Why am I red? I've busted a few cans of biscuits in my life. I'll just say it like that, okay?
You remember that old commercial where the button came off and it went flying around back in the 80s? That was so good. Anyway.
No, man. I used to love doing that when I was a kid. Open the can and hit it on thing, and all of a sudden, boom, it's scary to death. I used to love doing that. I should have picked the leather jacket as my sale of the week because technically it was my biggest sale. It was like $85. But I like this one better.
Biggest.
It literally was the biggest. Yeah. But I like this sale better. It's a Heritage Mint Santa Claus display, like a ceramic display. You set it out on a table. It's Santa Claus. There's the fireplace. There's kids, dog, all this, like you set it out, kind of like a nativity scene, but it's Santa Claus. It sold for $68 on sale. This was another weird sale. The buyer, they didn't counteroffer. They accepted my offer, and then they messaged me, "Hey, I'll pay tomorrow. My bank's being weird." I'm like, that's fine. Tomorrow payment, whatever. Well, tomorrow comes, no payment. That happens. I'm like, okay. And late in the evening, 8 or 9 o'clock, they messaged and said something about their bank had messed them up. They wouldn't have funding until the 25th. I said, okay, well, that's like 6 days away. I'm like, just so you know, eBay provides us a 4-day window to cancel. If you need to cancel or if something happens, just let me know. That way I ain't sitting inactive for 4, 5, 6 days. And he or she come right back and said, I think I've got it figured out. They're saying now the 24th. Well, sure enough, this morning, there it is. I wake up and they paid for it. I'm like, oh, okay. And I did go, like a lot of us do, and I looked at their feedback, expecting to see some of those positive feedbacks that say buyer never paid. You see those sometimes. Nothing, 100% good all the way through and through. And I'm like, it was legit, had to be legit a bank issue. But, you get that so much, it's like you don't believe it anymore. But it must have been real legit. But, that was mine. We had that thing for well over a year. And it's just it's one of the nicer ones, too. I really like it. I hated to get rid of it for that cheap, but I've got a sale going, and that's why it moved. But it was like $100 item. Yeah. But the sales are keeping me alive right now too. So got to keep them going.
Right. Yeah. I've got a similar situation. They didn't click purchase, but I had sent an offer out on a CD set from that buy. It was, they were all sealed. It was that collection. I sold one set of them. I think I mentioned it on here a while back. That were open. He had two sets, an open set and a sealed set. And so I sold the one set for like 75. And then these others, the sealed ones list pretty high. And it's 2, 4, 7 CDs total. And it's like every album this band made, but on CD. And there's multiple albums, multiple like record albums, like on each CD. It's the Dave Clark 5. You said you were very familiar with them.
I love the Dave Clark 5.
Yeah. But
Dave and his 5 guys,
But I'm waiting to see. I'm waiting to see what happens with this, because I mean sometimes it pans out and sometimes it doesn't. But I sent an offer, I think, for $180. I've got them listed at $199 to $200. I sent an offer at $180, and it was a lady from Britain, like from the UK, which is where the group was from, had messaged and said that she really appreciated the offer and she would like to get them, but she didn't. I guess she's probably retired, and said it would be the 28th of this month before she'd have the money. So she didn't accept the offer. So I messaged back. I said, well, if you still want them and they're still available on the 28th, then I would be glad to, accept the same offer back from you. And so I've still got that buyer. I'm going to message them because it's such a big sale, such a large dollar amount sale. And I mean, I've got, less than $2 in them. So, I'm going to take time. I think that's worth me messaging them now that we're just a few days out. I was thinking about it this morning. Probably tomorrow, I'm going to send a message and give them a day or two so they can maybe run across it before they get paid and see if they're still interested in buying it. So hopefully that'll work out.
Hopefully that don't break the bank too bad. That don't break the bank too bad taking that offer after you spent $2 big on that.
Oh yeah, I know, right? I mean, they're worrying me to death sitting there on the shelf right now.
I know. All right. Well, let's hit up our comment of the week.
All right.
You got one?
Yeah.
I bet you got mine, probably.
I don't know, maybe. I went with so a couple that I've kind of become friends with, Retro Renewed. They left this comment. It was a short comment. They mentioned because I mentioned the hornet's nest in my heat pump last week, but they said, hope we get a follow-up on the hornet nest. And I just want to say that they're a great couple. If you've never checked them out, try to go over there to Retro Renewed and check out their channel. Monday through Thursday, they do a live broadcast every morning for like 20 to 30 minutes or less usually. And they just kind of talk about a topic while they're showing what sold the day before.
Is that couple you told me about? Amber and
Amber and Aaron.
Amber and Aaron, yeah.
Yep.
I remember you telling me about them now. Yeah.
And they're doing really good. They've been full-time for a while now, and they're really, their business is growing. I think they're killing it. They're critical, like most of us are, of themselves a lot, but I think they're doing a great job. And I really enjoy listening to them. They will interact with you if you want to go over there. If you like live shows, just subscribe, hit the notification, and every morning, generally it's pretty early. Today it was a little later, but they're generally on there every morning, Monday through Thursday. So anyway, shout out to them and appreciate the comment. And the only update I have right now on the hornet's nest is I know for a fact it is in the HVAC. I think last week I said I thought that's where it was coming from. I have witnessed them going in and out. I did take a look around it. They're not around the coils. I actually saw them going out. So it's got one of those prefab, pieces that the unit sets on. And around the bottom of it, there's a couple places where there's a little ridge, like, where it's got a little gap, like for water to run. Well, I saw 2 or 3 of them that have crawled in the one little spot. It's only, just real narrow, probably like an inch wide or so, but they get down there and they crawl up under that. And so I guess somewhere up in the middle of it, back side of the coils. They're getting up in there. Like, so here's my dilemma. I was thinking to myself, if I could see them through the coils, then I may try to be brave, and go out there with some poison and try to, get to near the entrance of it and just load it up with that foam, because I know any that try to come out and hit that foam, they're going to die.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, what do you do? Do I call a service call on my unit?
I think I would probably call HVAC and an exterminator and be like, I need both you guys.
Because, how do you deal with that?
They're going to have to take the top off of it.
The sides, the whole thing's going to have to come off. I don't know. But
when you do that, they're going to run that impact zip. They're going to zip them things out, and they're going to stir them guys up.
I wouldn't get. That's what I'm saying. I wouldn't be able to get, even if I use I could use like a nut driver and be really quiet about it and set my unit where it won't come on. But here's the thing. They're going, there's 2 or 3 that are going in and coming out all the time, just flying around. If I'm standing 2 feet from the entrance and they're coming in and going out, I'm going to get stung just standing there.
Yeah,
I ain't going to be able to stand there a long time. And when I get one panel loose, if I get one panel loose, then, I may be able to get that one panel and take it with me if I can escape being stung. And then I'm going to have to wait, because that's probably going to stir them up. It's probably going to be an hour waiting on it to settle down, and then go back and try to get another panel off.
Yep.
And if I happen to pull a panel off and I can actually see the nest, the odds of me not being able, if it's not where the entrance is, the odds of me being able to do anything else without stirring them up is going to be slim to none. So
absolutely.
I don't know. Anyway, what's your comment of the week?
Well, first of all, before I get to my comment of the week, I'm going to request that you video whatever you decide to do. We want to see
I'll think about it. We want to
see you in action here against these things.
Yeah, let's hold a screwdriver, a video camera, and try to fight hornets.
Just have Casey video you from like 15, 20 feet back.
You ain't getting 20 feet within 20 feet of that thing. I mean, we dealing with hornets. You could just get Tanya to do something like that.
Okay, I understand. Have your son help you out. He can come out there and hold that camera.
He's never around anymore, boss. He's done moved, so.
Well, put it up on a tripod.
That's what I'll have to do if I do it.
Just tripod that thing right down on it, and then
then they can get all the fat angles and all the all the hornet kung fu that's going on when they start buzzing me.
Oh my goodness! I gotta tell this. Like one time at church, right? Our pastor at the time, before I was pastor, he was up talking, and he said, he was doing the same thing. HVAC was what he done for a living. He incorporated these two stories together. So these hornets got after him out of this unit, just basically like what you're talking about. And he was just, running around, just swatting it at the air and all that good stuff, and never could catch nothing. Well, he got stung a few times, so he got his phone out, and this was back when talk to text wasn't quite as advanced. It's probably been 10 years, Actually, it's been like 10, 12 years. So he pulls it up, hits the microphone, going to talk to text, and he sends this message about, I'm out back in the garden area checking the HVAC, and I need this, need that, whatever, to somebody.
Right.
Well, as I said, talk to text was in its primitive form, so he just sends it. And when he gets his message back, he reads what he actually sent, and it was something like, I'm naked in the garden, come quick. And I'm like, oh my gosh. But it's just I thought that was just so funny when he told that right there in church in front of everybody. I'm like that.
Man.
But yeah, hornets, man.
It's no fun.
A booger.
No fun, I'm telling you.
All right, so my comment is from Nebraska Picker. I kind of went with this one. I got away from my norm because I thought this was good information. They said, it's my understanding that no matter how well you package an international item, they will open it at a location in the States so they can fill out customs forms. Then they repackage it and ship it overseas and don't always do a stellar job. And I wanted to comment on that and say that is actually what I have been told also, that 90% probably 95% of the time, they're going to open your box and they're going to check it out and put their paperwork or whatever they got to do. And they're going to repack it how they see fit.
Yeah.
And I can guarantee without a shadow of a doubt that I'm going to pack it better than an eBay service center is going to pack it. I know without a doubt I'm going to. And you say, how do you know? I worked in distribution for 20 years. I know how stuff gets packed in a service center, a distribution center. People are going to stuff a little stuffing in it and send it on. They're not going to do it the way we're going to do it, where we're going to canvas the bottoms, the sides, the top. You know, we're not dependent on, or we're not able to just take a chance on 15, 20 orders a day getting broke.
Right.
Whereas a big company can do that. But that's good information for those of you that don't know that. All your international stuff goes to Glendale Heights. It goes to California. There's a couple of places in America it goes. And more than likely, they're going to take it apart. They're going to repack it and send it on to its destination. So that's another reason that return policy is such a good thing, because can you imagine how many returns you would have to eat if eBay didn't back you up? Like, I would probably turn off international before it was all said and done if they made us eat those costs, because you know it would happen. I mean, you know it would. But I appreciate that comment from Nebraska Picker.
Right. Yeah. And I don't know, like, if it's 100% of items that are, I've read about it before, and I was trying to look the policy back up. I know if you read their policies, they reserve the right to open and inspect any package that's going through international shipping. Now, like I said, I don't know that means that they open every single package, but they do have to be careful because there's a lot of international restrictions on certain items. They have to be careful about exactly what it is sometimes, you know, and I know, like, you know, we should be sending what we're selling, but I don't know what. It's just like here, you know, like you can't send batteries, you know, you're not supposed to anyway. And so if you're sending an item that has them in it, you're technically, you know, I mean, I say you can't. It has there's restrictions on stuff like that. You know, there's certain
carriers and
there's certain carriers or certain parts of USPS. You know, you have to disclose that information. If you send it by the wrong service within those, then it could be returned or it could fail to go through. And that's if you tell them. Of course, if they don't inspect it and it makes it through, because USPS can open and inspect packages too. So, you know, if it goes through without getting inspected, you're okay. But if it ever happens, it's just like using priority shipping materials in a non-priority package. You know, I know everybody's got different feelings about that. I'm not saying that it's okay to take their boxes and just use them, wrap them up. But, you know, like, what about recycled boxes? I've always wondered about that. I mean, I don't understand why. So my only option is to recycle a priority box that's already been used as priority once again, or burn it or throw it away, when I could chop it up and use it for small pieces to wrap small items in or something. So, I mean, I get that technically you're not supposed to do that, but there's a lot of gray area there on, you know, what's the best use. But again, if you use any of it and you put it in a different envelope or something like that, and they open it, they can charge you for priority shipping because you had some priority stuff in there. Or if it's a part of a flat rate box, whatever the box is, it don't matter if it's just a piece of it. If they can identify it, they can charge you for the flat rate package that it would have been. So, that's one reason I don't like priority boxes. It's just, if I put that on my listing, I'm going to ship it priority mail, and I could have saved them money and saved me money by doing ground advantage. Yeah.
It's like, I would rather make the decision after I do the deal. Like, if I want to use the priority box, okay. If I don't, okay. You know, I have the choice. But it's crazy. Let's get us. Yeah. I've actually seen people cut those boxes down and flip them inside out. I think they put the stuff on the inside now, but
on the inside,
they used to it was it just said USPS. They would flip them inside out and use them. I'm like, boy, that's a lot of work just to use that box, you know, just that free box.
And I mean, if you're looking for free boxes, which I know the uniformity of size, you can kind of develop a system where if you sell some of the same things, you know exactly which box to go get. So I get that, even if you're having to flip them inside out and retape it. So I mean, I understand the uniformity of it could increase efficiency to a degree. Because if you're scavenging boxes like we talked about last week, say from Dollar General or Walmart or something like that, then they're going to be random sizes, you know. So and they're already going to be broken down. So you're still going to have to tape them, do some work to them, you know. So I don't know. I don't know what the best practice is, but in my mind, like you, I almost think, you know, it's better to go scavenge some of those than it is to worry about all that work of breaking, you know, tearing it apart. Because once you break that other part down, it is a little more challenging to reconstruct than it would be otherwise. And you're also hoping that your tape is stronger than that original, you know, joint was. And that could lead to a box failure possibly, you know, during shipping. So, and damage an item.
Absolutely. Well, let's do us a little wrestling talk. You want to?
Let's go for it.
Do it. I'm going first. So I was devastated in 2007. This week was the week Chris Benoit murdered his family. Back in 2007. And I remember, and I wasn't really following wrestling at the time. Me and Tanya had been married a couple of years, and I kind of fell out of it. And, you know, so I wasn't following it, but I was a huge Chris Benoit fan.
Yeah.
From way back, you know, Four Horsemen and his time in Japan and all that. And I remember flipping through the channels, and I see on, you know, Fox News, CNN, something, former or professional wrestler murders his family. And I'm like, whoa, who did that? And it comes up there, Chris Benoit. And I'm like, Chris Benoit? Like, what in the world? But, you know, they kept showing his house, showing the outside of his house. And then a few days later, WWE had a big memorial show that Monday, you know, because they didn't know it was a murder. At the time, they just had found 3 people dead. And they did this big old memorial show. And then 3 days later, Chris Benoit ceases to exist in wrestling history. Like, he is not talked about. He is not mentioned, except for in light of this story.
That's it.
And I guess he shouldn't be glorified. You know, like we shouldn't say, oh, he was a great person. I still had trouble believing he did it. But then after I watched the documentaries and how bad the CTE was and his brain, the damage from all those diving headbutts. And it's like, I can see it now because he had done so much irreversible damage. They said his brain was like that of an 80-year-old man's. And I'm like, he was just like 45 years old or something.
Yeah.
And he had the brain of an 80-year-old. So that was crazy. But, he murdered his wife, Nancy, which was known as Woman.
Yeah.
And his son, who was just like 6-7 years old, Daniel, 8 years old, something like that. But, man, I remember that like it was yesterday. And just one of the saddest days, probably the second saddest day for me in wrestling history, followed by Owen Hart's death.
Yeah.
And just terrible stuff, man. I hate to bring the gloom and the doom, but that one had to be visited, I think.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And, you know, honestly, I think mine kind of goes along with that to a degree because, you know, we've mentioned this before. And, you know, while the storylines may be scripted and stuff like that, and we know that when they're throwing punches, look, nobody's going to take, you know, 12 punches to the ear, you know, and just get back up like nothing's happened. We know that part of things, but there's a scripted part. There's also the wear and tear and the real, you know, beating up of the body. And like you said, the head injuries, that happens a lot more. Head and neck injuries are 2 of the more common things that people deal with, that probably get overlooked in professional wrestling a lot more than they should. Maybe not neck if it's like a broken neck, but I'm talking about especially like the concussions. That seems to be something, especially with some of the more hardcore wrestlers, that just gets completely dismissed a lot of times. But anyway, mine for this time, Did you get? Did I freeze or did you freeze?
Probably me again. I just lost you there for a minute.
All right. Well,
I was talking about neck injuries.
No, well, and I said the head injuries are probably more dismissed than anything. Concussions happen a lot in professional wrestling because of all the acrobatics and stuff like that they do, and they hit their heads a lot. They swing metal chairs at each other, and there's a part of that, they throw their arms up, it shields it. But if you listen to some, especially the old hats from back when we watched more back in the 80s, the 90s, maybe even into the early 2000s, that was a lot more real. There's something that's like, man, you went in the ring with this guy and you were new. He meant you were going to know that this wasn't all as fake as people made it out to be, And that being said, mine was King of the Ring 2001. And so in King of the Ring 2001, Kurt Angle was kind of one of the bigger names at the time. And he was, I say in scripted, probably from the fans' point of view, he was one of the favorites to win. And he had a match that was planned with Shane McMahon the same night. And you remember this match. So Angle wound up wrestling 3 matches. He had 2 matches before that. And even with the script, the cardio, right? Just the exhaustion that you have from the work of doing the ring work that many times. So there was interference the first match he was in by McMahon to make sure that he made it to the final, so he'd be extra tired for their match. And then in the final match, though, it might have been expected that he would win, McMahon interfered again to make sure that he lost. And so, it builds even more up into this match that's going to take place. And, this is the bloody street brawl or whatever they called it, Again, this match, I think it lasted like near 30 minutes or around 30 minutes long. It was a really long and grueling match anyway. And, Shane McMahon was known as the risk taker anyhow. And, they're doing all these moves that are tough. Well, they get out on the concrete outside the ring, and most of it took place outside the ring to a degree. And they're on the concrete floor, and Angle goes to do a suplex, and McMahon blocks it. So he suplexes Angle. This is the first big thing. Angle lands funny on his rear end, and he said he was pretty sure that his tailbone was broke. Now I don't know that it actually was, but he said it was super painful, and he was struggling from that point on physically, like to concentrate and strength wise, like between already being tired, just trying to stay in it and do the moves correctly and everything. So he said, well, they worked their way up the ramp, they get up there, and they got this bit planned where he's supposed to suplex McMahon through the glass, And so according to, what they've said since then, it's supposed to be prepped so that it breaks easy. And they said they didn't gimmick it correctly. And plus, Angle even said that when it come time to suplex him, he said he was having a hard time. Like he was tired, and then his rear end hurting like it was. He said he wasn't sure, feeling good about even doing the move. And Shane's like, yeah, do it. Well, the first time they're standing on the outside of it where the imaging is, and he does the belly-to-belly suplex. It's amazing anyway because, McMahon weighs over 200 pounds. And so he throws him over his head. Shane hits the glass and just bounces and lands on his head, and it was not what was supposed to happen. It's supposed to go through the glass. And so, he literally, like Shane said at that point, said, he was kind of dazed really good there. But, and Angle's like, he's like, because they talk during the match, in case they do need to end something called injury. He's like, we need you to stop this. We need to stop this. And Shane's like, no, do it again. Put me through that glass, And so he got a hold of him again. And the second time he goes through the glass, Shane said, well, I hit, he said, and I'm really, it's bad, said, I'm really feeling the effects of this stuff, He said, so Angle goes in, and it's like, you got to put me through the glass again because that's what they're supposed to do on the backside. And Angle's like, I don't know if I can, don't know if I can do this, So, well, they go through it anyway. He gets him again, belly to belly, throws him on the backside of the glass, and he bounces off again and lands on his head a second time, And Angle said, at this point, I'm like, forget this, because Shane was saying, now you're going to put me through that glass. That's the only way we're continuing this, And so he grabbed him and sent him head first, just running through the glass. And of course, they make their way down to the ring. They're both bloody, and stuff. And it's just one of those moments. Like I said, the trauma though, physically, the head trauma with all the attention that's given to that today, to look back and see those types of things and know, like you're talking about landing on your head from 4 or 5 feet up in the air, being thrown, and you weigh over 200 pounds on concrete. I mean, twice,
not good
not counting
combinations.
no, not at all. And with Shane, you're talking about a guy that would jump from 30 or 40 feet in the air and crash and not worry about it. Kind of like we talked about with Mick Foley. I mean, it's just craziness sometimes what they would do. But that was mine. I always thought that's a really fun, I guess for us.
I watched it live. I loved it. Loved it.
Yeah, it was one of the. Angle says, if you listen to some of his interviews, he says that was the greatest match he has ever in. He's made that comment. Now he may say that about another match too. You know what I mean? But in interviews about it and talking about it, he said it's probably the greatest match he took part in, which is surprises us. It was Shane, but he said just the overall scripting of it, the drama of it, all the different things. He said it had great wrestling at the beginning. You had the street brawl part of it. You had all the drama. The finish at the end. Because, at the end of it, because you saw it, but they're in the ring, and he's supposed to stand on the ropes and do the angle slam off the top rope to Shane.
Yeah.
But he said he was so tired. He said his legs were weak. His rear end was hurting. So he gets that board that he'd hit Shane with, and that was part of it. He decides to put it up on the ropes. And so he climbs up on top of that. He said, I think without that, I couldn't have done the slam. But he got a hold of him, of course, did the angle slam off the top rope, and Shane takes another shot, as if he needed another shakeup of his brain after that. But
goodness,
it's crazy what they go through that people don't even realize, and it's all for the sake of entertainment. I get that, but there is a beating. There's a physical toll, and especially head injury wise, more so than what probably ever gets reported on.
Absolutely, and even in this day, it's not like it was back 30 years ago. They wouldn't tell nobody back then. Nowadays, they'll stop the match and all that. But, back 80s and 90s, they'd just go.
Oh, yeah.
And they'd fix it afterwards. But crazy stuff, man.
Well, even then, that's kind of what they were saying. They knew, but it was the main event of the big night, and they just said I thought that was really interesting, too, how they both said there were times they were both questioned, do I want to continue? Because they got the chance to opt out. To not finish the whole thing that's planned if that's what needs to happen. And especially in matches like that where they got so many risky moves planned, they know there's always a chance of injuries,
Oh, yeah.
And they were both, especially Shane is talking about, there's times when you're laying there, you're thinking, okay, do I want to try to finish this? But then you're like, yeah, this is, the crowd's into this. They're loving it, feeding off. He said, you get this adrenaline rush and we got to keep going. We got to finish this. And anyway, cool stuff.
Crazy. Oh, yeah. Crazy stuff. All right, let's hit up a dad joke, and then Josh has a Georgia surprise. So I'm pretty sure you won this week. I know I got one vote.
Yeah, I got 2 or 3. I know.
Yeah, and that's okay. I mean, I think you need to win every now and then. It helps your morale. But that's okay. So you go ahead. You won.
You want me to go first? Are you sure?
You won. Go ahead.
All right. So what has 2 butts and kills people?
I'm not sure.
An assassin.
That is true. Yeah. It's a little weak, though. I feel like that's a little weak.
I like that one.
That's okay, but it's a little weak.
Well, you know what? You'd be able to identify weak on a dad joke, so I appreciate that.
Okay. That's, yeah. All right. Yeah. There's the real joke, folks. He was waiting. He was reeling me in. All right. So now let me get
loosened up.
Get ready for this. Gotta get ready. Get ready.
Oh, man.
So after the man who created the hokey pokey died, it took a while to get the body into the casket. They put his right foot in. They took his right foot out. They put his right foot in. Well, you know the rest of the story. Come on, man. You're supposed to laugh. That's what I get for not laughing at yours, right?
Well, that look, it is. Was it Nebraska Picker said something about your smirk at mine last week?
Yes,
Said
it was.
That's what won it for him.
Yeah.
He said it was that smirk. I thought, wow. I thought it was about the joke, and I'm losing because of the smirk.
You're losing because of the smirk.
No, it's good stuff. I thought I liked mine. I thought it was pretty good. You want to do it? You got another one?
No. Well, I do, but I don't want to lose twice.
Oh, I don't think you're gonna lose twice. I thought maybe if those are that week, we need to do a second one.
I can do it. If you want to do it, I can
Let's
do it.
tag it up this week. Give me a second one.
All right. Give me just a second to get back to my joke screen because I done left it.
Oh man.
Yeah, I gotta write it down. Well, I ain't got a whole screen, but I got a couple. All right. So today at the bank, an old lady asked me to help her check her balance. So I pushed her over.
I like it. That's pretty good.
There's your smirk right there, sir.
Yeah. All right. What did the horse say when it tripped?
I don't know.
Help, I've fallen and I can't giddy up.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
I like it.
Yeah, these are getting kind of bad again. I don't know.
It's okay sometimes.
We're going to have to game up here. We was trying to do them better, and
Well, you can't do a dad joke about doo-doo every week. I mean,
that's true. There's the podcast that's already got that corner marketed.
Yeah.
That market cornered. Yeah. So we can't steal that one. But,
that corner market.
Yeah. They've got a corner market all about doo-doo. That's what they got.
Yeah.
So tell us about, this is going to be our final segment. And I'm just going to sit back and hush and listen to this story.
I don't know. I just thought it was a cool story, number one, just overall. So we had gone to see my wife's grandmother, Mama is what we call her. And so we're going to see her. She's 88 and still, living independently. Her and her husband, he's 93, I think. And, they still take care, still, do everything. She took us to Waffle House the morning that we woke up there, I mean, they got really, really good shape, for their age. But anyway, we visited with them and they live in Georgia. And on the way back, it's about a 5.5 hour drive for us over there. So we went down on what day was it? I think it was a Thursday evening, stayed the night, and then come back the next day. Maybe it's Friday. I'm getting my days mixed up. It doesn't really matter the day. But on the way back, anyway, we were doing some picking, and we stopped at this place, and the people that ran it, they leased the facility, and it wasn't a big town. So it was like a shed style building, a smaller one, and then it was connected behind it. There was like an open area that had a little bit under it, and then there was a space between that and some area in the back, and it had this one big closed-in spot with like a gable that had over it and had like appliances, and then you go all the way to the back, and they had this part that was blocked off where it had just an open walkway, and behind that there was another really big, like just open shed, but it's big, like really big. So anyway, we get there and I get out, and when I walked in, first of all, I thought this place is pretty promising. We're the only car there, for one. I like going to these oddball, out of the way places that seem to be really large and not have a lot of attention. I just usually have good luck. So we walk in and we start seeing some kind of cool stuff. They had some Department 56. I know some people say just stay away from that altogether unless it's Halloween, that kind of stuff. But there's some good pieces in it if they've got the right one. So we're looking, and there was quite a few. There's probably 25 or 30 there in that room. It was a small room we walked in, and had some other interesting stuff. I thought, well, this could be decent. So we walked on through into the next part of it, and we're seeing some of the stuff outside. There's some interesting, but it's it's not well kept. There's some shoes, different things. So we went on to that next building, the big building. We see a bunch of appliances outside. At this point, I was like, maybe it's not as good as I hoped it'd be. But when I walked into that part, well, then it's like regular stuff, like just smaller items. And the big thing was I'm seeing Department 56 everywhere. There's like a stack in the middle, probably 25 or 30 pieces. And then on the wall over to the side, it's like these racks that go up like 12 feet, and they're just covered in them. and they're all, I mean, most of them look like, I mean, they're in the boxes in the foam, and the one or two that I looked at, they were like in the plastic in the foam, like they looked like they were brand new, just still had the price tags on them. I mean, they hadn't, not a lot of wear really. Well, we were there for probably 45 minutes before the guys, we saw them when we first came in, they had a small room that was air conditioned that they were sitting behind a piece of plexiglass. They didn't come out and greet us. They didn't say anything. We didn't have any, there were no prices on anything there. So, I mean, at this point, we've wasted almost an hour, and I'm thinking, well, this is great. I don't even have a person to ask a price. We're not supposed to be here but about an hour, and moving on down the road. And so finally I hear a voice. This other lady had stopped, and I guess she had went up to the window. And I know I could have went to the window before anybody tells me that, but I just kind of figured, you're out there shopping, somebody will come and say, hey, can we help you with anything? Well, they come around. I start talking to the guy, and they get different things. They buy storage lockers, they buy out collections and stuff. And they've been there like 7 or 8 years. And I asked him about the Department 56. He said, well, I'll tell you what, said if it's over, I think and I may get this wrong, but I'm pretty sure he said if it's over $40, he said 40 or more. And some of these are marked like, $150, but 40 or more, he said $20 or it was $10. I told you I couldn't remember exactly which one it was because he changed his price on me, not for the worst, but for the good. It seems like he said 20 and 10 to start with, Caleb, but I think after that, after I got to looking, he said, we'll do 10 and 5. So it was like, if it's under 40, it's $5. If it's over 40, it's $10 a piece. And so I had at first told my wife, I said, chances are they're going to want like $20 a piece or more for these. And most of them just aren't worth it. Sell-through rate's slow. They sell for $20 to $40 when they do sell. And, it's just not worth the hassle. They're bulky, they're breakable, all that kind of stuff. But then dude says, if they're under $40, I'll sell them for $5. And I'm thinking, well, sometimes if it's a rare piece, even the little small figures can be worth $30 or $40. Now, I know they have to be rare, if it's discontinued or rare, if it's one of the Christmas Village type pieces. Anyway, long story short, he said that they had bought out a guy after he passed away. His wife had sold his collections, and he worked for the telephone company like 50 years. He was a major collector of Department 56. And so that was one of the things he collected. He collected several things, but he collected a lot of those. He had his big book collector. He collected 8 tracks and music stuff. But his Department 56, they said that the best they could tell when they were loading it, he had one like pod, one of the metal pods where he had his collection stored, and said it was full. It was like an 8 wide by 12 deep, and said it was full to the top, and said there was at least 700 pieces, best they could tell when they were loading the stuff and moving it. And said majority of them, they were told the guy collected for over 30 years, 30 to 35 years have been collecting them. And from what his wife had told him, majority of them had never even been taken out of the box. They were brand new.
Oh my God.
And so they got all these pieces sitting around there. He did have Halloween ones, but someone had come in and bought those, by the way. All but one. I did get the haunted house for the Snow Village set, I believe it is, the original Snow Village. They had the Snow Village haunted house that they missed, and I was able to get it. But I mean, it's multiple collections. Had Snow Village, had a lot of the Dickens Village, had some of the little Bethlehem Village series. I mean, multiple series. It was just amazing. And the guy, so I asked him, I said, well, would you make a price on all of it? Just out of curiosity, because we were trying to scan, and we did pick out 4 or 5 that had a really good profit. We're trying to scan and figure out what we should get, and it's just too many. It's overwhelming. We're on a short time frame. They're getting ready to close. He says, well, at first he gives me a price. Well, I'll do this. I'll knock it back to this much a piece. And then I was like, yeah, well, I said, I don't know. I said, do you know how many pieces there are? And then he says, well, I'll tell you what, if you bought all of it, he said, I'd throw in all the Christmas stuff, because they had a bunch of, from this same guy, a bunch of Hallmark ornaments, a bunch of, I don't remember what all it was now, but he had said on the Department 56, I'm getting ahead of myself. He said, I'll do $5 a piece if you buy them all. Just $5 in general for each piece. He said, now on the little small ones, he said, we'll work something out. But then I'm asking about a price, well, could you just give me a price for it, So I think it was $3,000. That's what he shot me. But when he said $3,000 for everything, he said that would include all the Christmas stuff that the guy had, which include the Hallmark ornaments. It included, he had other things, other pieces, Santa Clauses, angels, different things that were of other brands. And I'd looked up a couple of them, and some of them were pretty good. There was one, there wasn't a sold comp, but there were only 2 listed. It listed for like $160, for this one item.
Mm.
So I don't know. I didn't look at the Terapeak to see if they have a history of selling like around Christmas. But anyway, point is, it's another one of those issues. It's a lot of money to put out up front. But I look at it and I think, a lot of the Department 56 are hard to move. They're chef setters. They're really hard to get rid of on eBay anyway, and make a profit. If you get the right ones, and we've got some good ones that have good sell-throughs that are rare that we brought home with us, and I'm sure there's more there like that. I'm sure it's a small percentage, but as I was telling you about earlier, I know there's ways to lock things together. I started studying the listings and the solds, and I did find where there were quite a few sales where people put 5, 6, 7, 8 together. And I'm sure they go get like a medium box. They price the box out, like what it would cost for shipping to get an idea. And they see how they can pack them in. Then they do pictures and list them that way. And so people look into that don't want to spend, $25 plus $15 shipping, on a bunch of individual items. If you're getting in at $5, there's this other idea. And I mean, there's a gamble to it in a way, but could you lot them in groups of like 5, 6, 7, pack them into a medium to large size, like one of the Walmart boxes, maybe, because they're all in the original styrofoam, and maybe be able to get an average of $20, $15 to $20 a piece for them, having a $5 investment, because 5 into 20 is not bad. If you can put 5 of those 5 into 20s in one box, that works out a lot better that way. And then there's also the option of throwing them up in lots on Facebook, where people locally that just collect or do the villages at Christmas time and are looking for a good deal. If you can, have someone pick them up at $15 each and come pick up 5, 6, 7 of them, or just take a big picture and say, come and pick what you want, at this price. If you can unload the ones that aren't great, that's my issue. So if you got ideas on that, let me know. Also grabbed 3 8-tracks. The guy had a huge 8-track collection, but someone had bought that. But as we were looking in boxes in the backside where he hadn't even unboxed stuff yet, where it was blocked off, he took me back there. And one of the boxes, I looked down and I saw an Ozzy Osbourne, 8-track, and it was in really good shape. The label on it was like bright colors. I mean, there's no fading on the 8-track. Everything looked great on it. And so I picked it up. I was like, well, this is when he told me about the 8-track collection. I said, well, what would you take for this? Is it for sale? And he said, that's $1. And I said, okay, I'll take that. I knew it'd be an Ozzy Osbourne. I figured worst case scenario, $10, $12, because it's in really good shape. Yeah. And there was a couple others. There's a Billy Idol and a Police that was all right there on the top of that box. And so I picked those 3 up. I said, all these be $1? And he said, yeah. So I grabbed those. Well, on the way home, I looked up the Ozzy one, and I saw sold comps as high as $400. Jeez. And I mean, it just blew my mind. Now, I don't think mine's that level. I don't have a way to test mine. But the guy had a working player that the wife that sold his collections and stuff out. The guy said the player was super nice, that a guy bought it and the entire 8-track collection, besides the stragglers that were left in boxes somewhere. And he said, as far as he knew, all of them played. That's what she said, they played and they worked. He was very meticulous. And so anyway, low side, I think I can probably get maybe $150 to $200 for that. And the others pumped out, $50 or more. So the other 2, it was more rare light titles, I reckon. I don't know much about 8-tracks. I just thought it was worth the risk. I bought a Kiss 8-track probably 2 years ago. That was still the Casablanca recording that was still sealed. And I got a really good price for it. I caught it at one of these random garage sales, where people were getting ready to move, and they just had a bunch of oddball stuff. Had like 3 8-tracks, and one of them was Kiss, and it was sealed. So I grabbed it, of course, but I think I gave 50 cents for it. Yeah. You get those lucky deals sometimes. But so let me know what you think. If you're watching this long, should I go back? Do you think it'd be worth the trip? Even if it's not to buy all of them, I thought maybe it might be worth my time. It'd be about a 3.5 hour drive, but go out there, get there when they open one morning and have all day to kind of really comb through, because I think he ended up giving me selling those even less. I mean, like he added it up and then they took money off, So I didn't tell you all the other stuff I got. I mean, like I got a whole box of train stuff. Is it the double? Is it the double O? I don't remember the size. It's the bigger size, and it's vintage stuff. There were like 2 or 3 engines. One of the control things that turns it on and off, still new in the box. Yeah. They sell for like $35, $25 to $35 new. And then one that's not in the box that looks like new, and it'll sell for about $25. But it had all the train pieces, tracks and stuff, a bunch of cars. I don't know that it's worth a mint. I looked him up. I don't think I'm going to get a ton for it, but he only asked $50 for everything in the box. Right. So I felt like it was one of those things. I knew I would get my money back out of the 2 controls and then go from there. I can just lot the rest together for $50 or $60 if I have to and just see how it goes. But I don't know. I may have a gem or 2 in there. I haven't dug through. It's a box full about, I can't even do it. It's probably a foot tall, 1.5 foot tall, good size box, kind of like a copy paper size box, and it's full. So,
wow.
I mean, anyway, cool stop. I would love to hear some feedback and some opinions on that because I'm a little bit at a loss. I keep having these things come along. I think back to Scott and him talking about private picks and bulk buys and how, that's where he's really done well and how he tries to, he'll pick the best things out of it, sell those on eBay and then lot everything else up and just sell it as a big bulk to somebody else local or something like that. And that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, with that many pieces, I could put groups that would make a nice village set for somebody of like 10 pieces together and maybe sell 10 pieces for $100. And, I can do that 10 times for every 100 pieces.
Yeah.
So 10 times, that'd be $1,000. So I'd only have to sell 300 pieces like that to get my money back, selling them in lots of 10 for $100. And there would still be 300 plus pieces left, not counting all the other Christmas stuff. And I really think he seemed pretty motivated to sell. I really think I could offer him 25 and he would take 25 for all the Christmas stuff.
You might even get less than that. Honestly.
I might.
I mean, money talks. If you whip out $2,000, he may just let you walk off with it.
Yeah.
That's a crazy deal though.
I think it's a good deal. And I was thinking, if he lets me go back there, there may be a few more 8 tracks.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't even have to look them up. If it's a recognizable artist at this point and they're in great condition, then I know I probably should go ahead and grab it, even if it's only worth $10. If I'm getting them for $1, because if there's just 1 or 2 other hits like that, you don't have to find too many items worth a couple $100 to make a drive and a $2,500 to $3,000 investment pay off really big on the backside. I mean, we brought over $1,000 worth of stuff home. I got a brass Bengal tiger that's probably 18 inches long, and he gave $5, and the comps are all over the place. I mean, but anywhere from 50 on the low side to 150 for the exact same one. I mean, you can find the exact one on eBay, but $50 to $75 up to $150 on that.
Wow.
$5. I mean, it's crazy.
That is crazy.
So, I mean, I really do think I need to make a trip over, if for nothing else than just to actually pick a pile and put it together and do a purchase. Cause I think I can definitely make the trip worth it for that, but finding the time in driving to Georgia, I had to leave at 5:00.
Send me the address and I'll tell you if it's worth going. I'll figure out the times and I'll let you know if it's worth it or not.
All right. You want to meet me there? You notice I didn't even name the town.
No, I don't want to meet you there. I just want to help you. I'm just going to be your travel advisor.
Oh, I hear you.
Yeah. I'm going to go down there and check the route and hang out a little while, and I'll let you know if it's worth going or not.
Right.
I may or may not come home with a bunch of Department 56 stuff.
I hear you.
That's not related to this conversation, but just so you know.
Well, seriously, on that, I know there's people that will say avoid them because I've been there.
I've always done well with them.
But because so many of them don't have good sell-throughs, you know what I mean? If you've looked a lot of them up, when they're wanting $15 for one at a yard sale, you usually can't buy it because it's only selling for $25.
Yeah, I don't do that kind of stuff. But I remember going to one yard sale, community sale. This woman had a stack of them, probably 20 pieces. And I said, would you make a bundle deal for all that? And she had them $5, $10, whatever. And she said, yeah, how about 100 for everything? And I'm like, sold. There's 20 pieces. I mean, that's cheap. Yeah, it's cheap. And they were all the better stuff. I got them home, and there was a Disney carousel of Mickey, Goofy, and Donald Duck that sold for $200 in that set. So, I mean, and not all of it's created equal, but even if you get some of the cheaper stuff, you are going to sell it. It is going to take a little while, but I mean, if you can get it cheap enough, absolutely.
Well, see, that's the thing. There's not any Disney stuff. There's no Halloween stuff left. You know what I mean? There's not like some of the sets that everybody knows to kind of watch out for. I mean, there's gems in almost every collection. You know, there's a few gems in it, but there's just not a lot of the higher end ones, like the collection wise, where the whole collection's good. Like there's none of the Whoville, you know, the Grinch stuff. There's none of that. You know, there's certain collections. If you look into Department 56, and everybody should, that's a reseller, you should at least be familiar enough to know if you see Disney, if you see Grinch, if you see Harry Potter, if you see, you know, if you see Halloween, like almost 100% of the time it's a buy if it's not broke. I mean, it's the buy. I mean, it's just, they're good stuff. I mean,
if they're not asking like $50 a piece or something.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Price always matters, definitely. But
some people really jack that stuff up. I went to one woman was asking like $75 a piece, and I'm like, as a reseller, you just can't hardly do it, you know.
And the reality is, with the number of pieces that's been made, probably 80% of the pieces that collectors paid $100 or more for don't sell for more than $25 on eBay, and that's a perfect one, still in the foam, still with the paper on it. You know, so you've got to get them cheap overall if you're going to try to move them. I mean, and then you got to, I mean, it's still questionable, like I said, to a degree. I think there's a way of doing it more in bulk locally, maybe, where I could get out of them quicker around Christmas time. And maybe, especially because there's going to be resellers that if I offer a set of 10 of them for $100, somebody's going to want to jump on that and think they're going to sell them all for $30. And I'll take advantage of anybody. But there's times when I would have jumped on that I probably would be very careful now about trying to do that. You know,
there's profit in it. It may not be the kind you want, but there's still profit in it.
Yeah. And it's long term if the sell-through rate's slow.
And it just depends on how much you want to win. If you're satisfied winning less, you know, I mean, it just depends on the level of success you're looking for in it. If you're okay with making double your money instead of like 5 times your money, I mean, it's nothing wrong with that. It's just what degree do you want to succeed on that deal? All right. Well, that's a pretty good Georgia surprise.
Well, this is our longest podcast ever, I think, ain't it?
I believe it is. Not to mention we was talking about that we need to ask this question. 2 things before we leave. Okay. And we've never really discussed this in depth. You guys tell us what you think. But first of all, 2 weeks from now, we have a special guest coming on the show. I guess I should ask you if that's still
on the 8th. Yeah, as far as I know, excited about it. Yeah.
Okay.
The 8th is our recording day. It'll be
the 8th is
the 11th to be the release date.
Yes. So July 11th, 2 episodes from now, Rachel Strickland will be on the show with us. So we're looking forward to having her on. I've really enjoyed some of her Instagram stuff here lately. She's very encouraging and uplifting and motivating in what she's doing. So we're excited about that. The second thing we kind of talked about, and we're not saying we're going to do this, we're just tell us what you think. But we was talking about what if we ever had memberships on this show and we could like record all the backstage stuff we do, because we talked for an hour before we ever got going today. And, you know, it was all just laid back conversation, which is the same as it is now, but there was no format. There was no laid out process. It was just us talking in general. And
you might even catch a bathroom break.
You might. I'm telling you right now, this podcast has to end in the next couple of minutes because I'm floating out of my chair. But see, all that stuff, and we was talking like if we ever did memberships, you could have backstage access to the before the show, the after the show. We would just keep recording and cut that stuff out for members only. And you guys tell us what you think. Would you like to see memberships on this show? And we're not begging for money, but I mean, it wouldn't be much, but you know, is it something you're interested in? And
it ain't even about that, but we don't want to go through the trouble of, you know, we're not looking to just throw something else on there in general.
Right.
But if, you know, if you think that that's something you would really enjoy getting to take part in, then, you know, it'd be extra work on us. You know, cause sometimes we do, you know, there may be a little something here and there we have to cut out if we're talking about cause we go over some personal things too from time to time. And some of that's okay, but some of it's not, you know, some of it's not meant for other ears every time. but probably 90% or better, 95%, and sometimes 100% of what we talk about before, it's all fair game.
Oh yeah. I mean, we may even talk about busted cans of biscuits, who knows?
Yeah, that's right.
Talk about it. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us. We made it to the hour and 50-minute mark. That is the longest show we've had together.
Yeah.
And there it is, hour and 50 minutes. But thank you guys for being here, hanging out with us today.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Josh. And come check us out at the Pickin the Plateau. Thanks again to the Full-Time Flippers for having me on this week. Appreciate you guys. We appreciate all you guys.
Yeah, I love you guys.
And,
really do.
If you're not subscribed, want 5 of you guys go over and do that for us.
If you've made it 2 hours, surely you can hit the subscribe button if you're not.
You are a champion if you made it 2 hours.
Yeah, I expect our average view time to be about 25 minutes, so most people will never see this part.
Yeah, that's right. All right. Thank you guys so much. Until next time, we're 2 old guys, and we are out.
See you guys.